Welcome back to 5 Minute Fantasy Football, presented to you by the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Today, we're going to talk about streaming options for the quarterback, tight end, and defensive special teams position. You don't go into your fantasy football drafts always picking a defense. Sometimes, picking the New York Jets or San Francisco 49ers looks fun on the draft. Then you realize that they play each other week one, and the New York Jets aren't necessarily the best matchup. You want to pick on teams like the New England Patriots. They're easy targets. Tight end position, you got, apparently Kyle Pitts is limited in practice. Brock Bowers is dealing with a foot injury. You might want to look at other options. So what do we have there? And quarterbacks, like we said with the defenses, they could have some bad matchups. And if you got a quarterback that, wasn't necessarily one of the top 5-6 guys, I mean, of course, you're starting Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen and CJ Stroud and Jalen Hurts every single week, no matter the matchup. But when it gets to the, 11th, 12th, 13th guy, maybe you don't want to start Brock Purdy against the Jets this week or Dak Prescott against the Cowboys, or you have another situation that's similar. And so I'm going to talk about some options here. Before we do that, make sure you go to Underdog Fantasy, download Underdog, and use promo code FFSGPN. We got some great promotions this weekend, and some you can do some pick'ems. First player I want to talk about is Will Levis. Will Levis is a player that, they did a great job this offseason investing around him. So his confidence is sky high, but, he also has some weapons now. And so Will Levis had the 32nd best offensive line in front of him. That's not good. So they brought in offensive line guru, Bill Callahan. They added Lloyd Cushenberry, a top offensive lineman free agent, and then they took their first round pick and got a tackle. And so this team is really investing to protect Will Levis and improve that offensive line. They brought over Brian Callahan, who's a McVay disciple via the Zach Taylor Cincinnati Bengals, and they got him Tony Pollard, and they also got him Calvin Ridley. So this offense should be more explosive, and this offense should have, a better offensive line than last year. And they get Chicago, which, Chicago is a improving defense, but they're not a defense that you're afraid to start your quarterback against. And Levis has a little bit of rushing upside on top of the gunslinging. He could be a sneaky play. Comes with some risk, but Levis is a guy that, he wouldn't be surprised if he's top 10 guy this week. Baker Mayfield, he gets the Washington Commanders. Last year, they were the absolute team to target, and Baker Mayfield himself, he took advantage of them last year. He's got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and Rashad White and Kate Otten. It's a pretty good offense, and it's just a really bad defense. So I like Mayfield against Washington. And then Matthew Stafford. Detroit's a good defense, but their secondary is still suspect. And Matthew Stafford carved him up for 31 fantasy points in the wild card game last year. We saw it. Going back to Detroit, same place he played at during the playoffs, and now he's got a healthy Cooper Kupp to go with Puka Nacua. I think big things for Matthew Stafford. Let's look at the tight end position. This is a guy that, maybe he was drafted in your leagues, but a lot of leagues didn't draft Taysom Hill unless, you can use him in the tight end position, of course. But if he is tight end eligible in your leagues, he should be considered an option. He was tight end 17 in ADP, and I just don't get it. Last year, this guy was a top 10 option for more than half of the season. And he was very consistent the second half of the year, and they love him. They talk about how they wish they could play 11 Taysom Hills on offense. This guy is a running back playing the tight end position and has the ability to throw the ball. There's no one that has that kind of production. And when you look at the options around him, I mean, do you want to start a Cole Kmet or a Hunter Henry that's going to get you a solid 6 to 8 points every single week? No, you want a guy that's going to give you the upside. Taysom Hill might come out with 0 points, but he also can come out with 30 points. He come out with 25 points. It's just not going to happen with those other guys. And to be honest, the 0 is not going to happen. This guy has a pretty safe floor because of the rushing ability. Alvin Kamara is not going to get all the workload. Someone else is going to get it. Kendra Miller's out. Jamal Williams is not good. And so Taysom Hill could be the second leading rusher on this team. and it's the Carolina Panthers. You're going to attack them through the air and the ground. This is a great matchup. Taysom Hill. Tyler Conklin. The San Francisco 49ers were actually they were pretty good to attack as far as the tight end position last year. They're a funnel defense. They funnel everything to the middle of the field. They got a very good pass rush, so a lot of the quick throws and things like that really turned to tight end production for fantasy. And Tyler Conklin, he fits the bill. You also have some questions there about who is the second receiver on this team. Obviously, you have Garrett Wilson, and then you have Breece Hall. But is Mike Williams back from the injury? Is Malachi Corley going to be a thing? Is Alan Lazard anything anymore? They tried to shop him this offseason. Tyler Conklin was heavily involved in the offense last year. He had very good indicators for success, such as air yards, yards per target, yards per route run. It didn't work out because the offense was very poor and the quarterback play was so bad last year. But Tyler Conklin had every analytics said that this guy could have had a breakout year last year, and he just didn't. And so he could end up being one of the top options there. We've seen Aaron Rodgers, bring some tight ends out of nowhere for fantasy. This could be another one. Speaking of Aaron Rodgers, Green Bay Packers tight end Luke Musgrave makes the list. He goes against Philly. Philly last year, they lost linebackers and coaches to free agency after the Super Bowl, and their team was really bad. They were actually just picking up guys off the couch to play linebacker last year. It didn't work out. Well, this year they've gotten some more linebacker help, but we don't know what that linebacker crew is going to look like. They've had to add some resources to the secondary. James Bradbury also just got hurt the other day. They're a team you can attack. This defense was really bad last year, especially down the stretch. And we don't know what the improvements, with Vic Fangio coming over are going to look like. Musgrave was great. Whoever the Packers played at tight end last year was a starting option. It was Luke Musgrave the first half of the year. He got hurt. Tucker Kraft came in. It's the offense. It's Jordan Love. And so I think you can definitely do that. And then when you look at the fact that Aaron Jones is no longer there, some of that passing, some of that targets could get funneled over to the tight end position. Let's talk about defenses. Minnesota Vikings at the New York Giants. I love the Giants. They're my team. But let's be honest, they're not a good team. That you want to target teams with bad quarterbacks, bad offensive line, and they check both the boxes. On top of that, they're really lacking weapons, so you're not expecting a high scoring offense. And the Giants could also be you could also flip this in reverse and go and play the Giants against the Vikings and Sam Darnold. Obviously, Justin Jefferson scares you, but Sam Darnold doesn't, and this offensive line is average. But Minnesota Vikings, they looked a lot better with Brian Flores. They brought in Jonathan Greenard from the Houston Texans to replace Danielle Hunter. It was a pretty good offense, and then they also got a pass rusher in the draft as well. Pretty good defense, and so they saw the playmaking ability last year, and Brian Flores really turned this defense around. New Orleans Saints, a lot of people didn't draft them, but they're number 2 as far as the Fantasy Pros ranking because they have such a great matchup against the Carolina Panthers. Panthers should be improved this year, but it's still a very bad offensive line with an unproven quarterback and lackluster weapons. And the last is the Cincinnati Bengals. They're number 1 on the Fantasy Pros ECR, my number 1 defense this week because they're playing against New England. I'm going to just take New England's schedule and stream whoever is playing against New England every single week if I possibly can, because it's going to be a recipe for success. Jacoby Brissett is not good, so you're not expecting a lot of points. You're going to get turnovers and sacks. Offensive line is awful. They've already got Jacoby Brissett hurt. They couldn't stop the second-string Chicago Bears offensive line. This team is not good, and they're going to be someone you're going to want to attack each year. And the Bengals are actually a pretty decent defense on top of it. So, again, this is 5 Minute Fantasy Football. As always, good luck this season.